This video is going to talk about two different ways that you can set up a light for your background. And the first way that I'm going to talk about it is with this clamp here, which is called a Matthellini clamp. It's patterned and the Matthews Studio Equipment makes them. They got the rights from Cardellini. Cardellini is the originator of this type of clamp. But I'm going to show you a couple of things you may not have seen. I use this all the time to set up my background lights, and it works quite well. So if this is of interest, stay tuned. And hello, my name's Steve. I'm an amateur photographer. I enjoy using old studio equipment, the kind of stuff that would have been in a rental house or in a professional studio 20 or 30 years ago. The old strobes and packs, they work great, and they're not that expensive. And the old grip equipment or even new grip equipment, it won't wear out. So this is an example of a photo that I have some background lighting going on. Here is another one. And the trick, for me at least, is to make sure that the background light is not showing up behind my subject. So depending on the type of table or the height of the table that I'm using, um, it, it doesn't always make it easy to use a light stand because the light stands typically are a little bit too tall. So I end up putting them on the ground. And one great way to get my lights onto the ground to shoot up at my background is with an apple box. This is a full apple box, but you could do the same thing with a half apple box, or in this case, I even use it with pancakes. The reason that I would use a pancake over an apple box is because it all depends on the height of the table that I'm working on and where I want that little ball of light, so to speak, to be, how I want that to be on the background. So if you have it always on the ground, it's going to kind of create a different angle of the light going up. If obviously if you have a low table and you may not be able to hide the light by having it here on an Apple box. So just to show you that it does work, this is a pretty heavy 600 watt monoblock. It's Profoto Compact 600. It is rock solid in this configuration as it would be even on the pancake. And uh, you know, I can't say enough about the Matthellini clamp, the one that is made by Matthews. This is a 3 inch, and what 3 inch means is that the jaws go a full 3 inches apart. There's a nice knurled top at the top of the baby pin. If you're going to hang this thing upside down, there's a cotter pin for safety. So these are not necessarily marketed towards people that are doing still photography. They're made to go onto a feature film, or they're made to go into TV or some sort of high-end motion production environment. And if you don't have a clamp and I would highly recommend getting a Cardellini clamp or getting one of these Matthellini clamps. Kupo also makes them. They're quite nice as well. I like the Matthellini because Matthews is paying Cardellini. Cardellini invented it, I think, although I'm not sure. Maybe Kupo doesn't have that arrangement. So um, the other thing you can use these for, and I do this a lot, is I will put foam board in it and use it for either negative fill or for bounce. The clamp holds the board really, really well. Um, so when you take a look at one of these, they form kind of a diamond. So there's 2 points of contact if you're using a flat surface. One is at the back and one is at the front. And it's really important to pay attention to the one that's at the back when you are setting up the clamp. So, and as a matter of fact, on the way the Apple box works here is, it's only touching the back. The front, in this case, isn't hitting any kind of lumber inside the handle, if you will. And the I guess this is a different way to look at it. With this example here, with this scrap piece of material, I'm showing you that you want to line it up in the back. You could just as easily put it in the front, but the reason you want to put it in the back is so that you have less chance of it binding and making it easier to release after you clamp it down. So if you were to put it into the front part of the clamp and you really cranked it down, the 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 crank could actually seize up, or the clamp, I should say, could seize up. Obviously, if you're working with a pipe, you don't have to worry about it going in the front or in the back. It goes in the valley, the peak in the valley of the clamp. But so it takes a few seconds in order to get it set up, in order to get it aligned, and it makes it easier and safer when you're trying to take it apart. The other way that you can use the same Apple boxes is with a baby plate. And these things are really inexpensive. You can buy them from, Avenger or Matthews or Kupo. A lot of companies make them. And they're just a baby pan that's been welded to a steel plate, and there's holes in the plate. So sometimes you'll hear about people nailing these or screwing them into their Apple box. And I don't think I would ever do that. If I were tempted to make it permanently mounted and screw it in, I would put it in a pancake. I'd put it in or a scrap piece of lumber. You can always put the lumber on top of another Apple box. And doing it in this configuration, if you have a grip head, you can flip this over and put it in the grip head, and it makes a really nice table. And the table is great for product photography because it allows you to bring your lights really, really close to your subject. So, I did that here. There's a piece of orange cardboard that's on top of my apple pancake, and likewise here, this was actually just sitting directly on top of the baby plate. So what you can't see in either this photo or the one here is that I have modifiers fairly close to the subject. And if I were shooting it on, let's say, a kitchen table, it gets a little bit more problematic with regards to how you set up the scene. But anyways, that's a different video. And with the baby plate, sometimes you don't even need to nail it down. So this is one on a half Apple box. It is not nailed down. One of the great features of a compact 600 strobe, and by the way, these are really inexpensive as well, is you can release the collar and you can center the weight of the strobe directly over the baby pin. So that, I do this a fair amount if I'm going to use the baby plate in this type of configuration, and it works really well. You may not want to put it directly on carpet. That's why I would use a piece of lumber or an Apple box, as you see here. So background lights are I like to use them. Hopefully this helps with different ways that you can think about getting them set up. They work really, really well on an Apple box, whether it's a full, a half, a quarter, or even a pancake. They can hold a lot of weight. They hold the weight really in a stable configuration. And even on a pancake, they do a good job. And if you want to spend a little bit less money, then I would suggest getting one of these. They're called a baby plate, and you can do the same thing. You can get it anywhere you want uh, with a little bit of imagination. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And yeah, I would recommend getting a Matthellini clamp. I'd recommend getting one of these baby plates. They are well